My boyfriend is a proud, distant young genius, someone who is extremely averse to physical contact. We've been in a relationship for years, but we've never shared any of the usual intimacies between couples. I thought this was just his nature, and I was ready to accept a platonic relationship. Until his birthday, when I took a hard-seat train journey for 40 hours just to visit him. And then I saw, under the streetlight, he was smiling, gently tugging at the ponytail of the girl beside him. And then he took her hand. At that moment, I decided I didn't want him anymore. I find it disgusting to be with a man who's been touched by someone else. The one who had always been so calm and controlled went mad. Chapter 1. It was the 14th day of my silent treatment with Bruno. His birthday. Carrying the birthday gift I'd saved up for by working for half a year, I rubbed my numb backside. A result of the 40-hour hard-seat train journey. From Province A to City B, 2,000 kilometers. I stood by the streetlight near the sports field of B University, feeling nervous, imagining Bruno's reaction when he saw me. It would probably be the same as always, expressionless, a simple nod in my direction. That's just how he is, like an emotionless robot. Thinking back to the reason for our argument, I couldn't help but sigh. In the distance, amidst the dim light, I saw that familiar figure. Just as I was about to go up to him, I noticed he wasn't alone. A girl with a high ponytail, dressed in sportswear, was looking up and chatting animatedly with Bruno. And Bruno. I don't think I've ever seen such a relaxed expression on Bruno's face before. The girl beside him kept chattering, and he reached out and gently tugged at her ponytail. The girl pouted playfully, slapping his hand. Instead of getting angry, he joined in her playful banter. The streetlight cast a gentle halo around the two of them. A handsome young man and a pretty girl, playing under the moonlight. It was as beautiful as a scene from a romantic drama, but I couldn't appreciate it at all. The reason was simple. Our argument had been about Bruno's personality, a young genius renowned throughout Province A, admitted to B University at 17. At 20, he had already become a rising star in academia. Geniuses have their quirks. Bruno is extremely averse to physical contact, almost to the point of pathology. He never takes part in any competitive sports and avoids public transportation at all costs. In middle school, he once beat his desk mate until he was covered in blood just because the boy had touched his hand as a joke. And I, as his girlfriend, was no exception. We didn't kiss, didn't hug, not even once held hands. Under the fireworks of our 1-year anniversary, I stood on tiptoe to secretly kiss his cheek. His gaze was calm and indifferent, but the quick step back hurt me for a long time. I always comforted myself, saying that Bruno was just like that. But sometimes, I couldn't help feeling unsatisfied. At the Qixi Festival Chinese Valentine's Day, my roommate announced her relationship, and her photo holding hands with her boyfriend received everyone's blessings on social media. I couldn't help but take a screenshot and send it to Bruno. Jokingly, I said that after 3 years of dating, I must be the only one in the world who had never held her partner's hand. He replied with just one word. Oh. I got upset and didn't send him a single message for 14 days. And he, even less likely, reached out to me. In the end, I convinced myself again, just like every time before. I crossed half of China to find him, only to see this scene. A huge sense of disconnection overwhelmed me. A motorcycle sped past the girl, and Bruno instinctively pulled her behind him, holding her hand. That obvious protective gesture made my heart ache once again. At the same time, Bruno also saw me across the street. Chapter 2. He still had no expression. He only paused for a moment, then quickly walked toward me. The girl exclaimed, "Hey!" and tugged on Bruno's sleeve. "Bruno, why are you suddenly walking so fast?" Bruno didn't pull away, letting her tug at him. He walked up to me, looking down at me. "Why are you here?" The soft light shone in his eyes, and until today, I thought that was his way of being gentle. I forced a smile. I handed him the carefully wrapped gift. "Bruno, I came to wish you a happy birthday." Bruno was about to take my gift when the girl beside him suddenly spoke up. "Oh no! Bruno, our reservation at the restaurant is about to expire. We're going to be late. Let's go quickly." Bruno's movement was interrupted. and he took a few steps forward as the girl pulled him along. Suddenly, he stopped and looked back at me. "What are you standing there for? Come on." My steps were unsteady, and I instinctively followed them. I still hadn't recovered. The scene just now kept replaying in my mind. I understood that I was unnecessary behind them, like a burden in the front seat of the taxi. But could I really just give up so easily on someone I had loved for so many years? In the back seat, the girl chatted nonstop. She was talking about things in the lab that I couldn't understand. Bruno responded softly. The atmosphere between them was harmonious. I couldn't help but recall the details of our relationship. At first, I also liked to share interesting things in life with Bruno, even though he never responded. I never got tired of trying, until one day, while I was enthusiastically telling him about the kitten I had seen outside my dorm, he interrupted me. "Lily, are you this idle every day?" After that, I never spoke a word of nonsense to him again. Naturally, I didn't know that he would also listen so intently to someone else's nonsense. I tightened my grip on the handle of the gift bag, the edges digging painfully into my palm. An overwhelming sense of exhaustion and sadness threatened to crush me. The taxi driver noticed my reddened eyes. Half jokingly, he said, "Young man, don't just focus on chatting with your girlfriend. Your sister is feeling neglected and is about to cry." The back seat fell silent. Exposed to my vulnerability, I hurriedly wiped away my tears. A surge of embarrassment and awkwardness washed over me. Not long after, the girl let out a soft laugh. "Sorry, I almost forgot about you. I'm Bruno's junior, Fiona. I'm just 1 year below him, but I skipped a grade, so now we're both graduate students under the same advisor. If all goes well, we'll be doing our PhD together as well." "And who are you? Which school do you attend? Who's your advisor? How many papers have you published?" "I've never heard Bruno mention you." The girl was still smiling, but her smile carried a hint of mockery. So she was Fiona. It's embarrassing to admit, but I often stalked Bruno's school forum. Bruno was quite popular, and there were always posts about him. He never shared his life with me, so this was my only way of getting to know him. Fiona's name often came up alongside his. They called them the golden couple of the materials science department. I'd seen photos of them together. It was from some competition, with both of them standing on the highest podium. They held up the trophy together, smiling freely. I admit, at that moment, I was really jealous. The wind outside roared past my ears, and Bruno remained silent. Faced with Fiona's blatant provocation, he showed no intention of defending me. "I'm Bruno's girlfriend," I spoke softly. Chapter 3. The restaurant was a private Fujian cuisine place, and the prices on the menu made my legs weak. Fiona, clearly familiar with the place, ordered the dishes. Buddha jumps over the wall, white cut chicken, stuffed tofu. "Let's start with these. Bruno likes them." Did Bruno like these? I didn't know. Before becoming a genius, Bruno was just like me, an ordinary kid from an ordinary family. When we went on dates, it was usually at small eateries by the roadside. On rare occasions when we splurged, we'd go for hot pot. Fujian cuisine? I'd never even heard of it. Fiona handed the menu back to the waiter. Before the waiter left, Bruno called him back. "Add a spicy chicken dish." Fiona turned her head with a smile and asked Bruno, "Bruno, didn't you say you never eat spicy food?" Bruno took a sip of tea and didn't answer. Only I knew. The one who loves spicy food isn't him. It's me. I felt like crying again. Bruno was always like this. Just when I was about to give up, he would give me a glimmer of hope to keep chasing. Just like that day, when I tried to steal a kiss and he dodged. He then lowered his head and gently kissed my hair. Chapter 4. The food was delicious, but I had little appetite. After 40 hours on the train, trying to save money, I'd only eaten a packet of biscuits. In absolute exhaustion, I had no desire to eat. Time quickly reached midnight. Fiona clapped her hands, and several waiters pushed in a huge cake. The cake had 3 layers, beautifully decorated, with figures standing on each layer. They were dressed in lab coats, and I guess they were their lab colleagues. On the top layer were a man and woman standing shoulder to shoulder, smiling happily. The cake was pushed in front of Bruno. And Fiona spoke up. Bruno, happy 20th birthday. She pointed to the figures on the top layer and added, and may you and I meet at the top together. An untimely blessing. Because of that dish earlier, I still had a bit of expectation for Bruno. I hoped he would refuse the cake, and hoped he would say something to me, but he just smiled faintly and thanked Fiona. Then, with hands clasped, he sincerely made a wish. The candlelight softened his usually stern face. Tonight, he had smiled more than I had seen in the past few years combined. Would his wish have anything to do with me? Or, like Fiona, did he wish for them to reach the top together? They were geniuses, and I was just an ordinary, poor student. The gap between us was laid bare, brutally and plainly, before my eyes. So, I believed it was the latter. The candlelight went out, plunging the room into darkness. My feelings for Bruno seemed to darken as well. Fiona cheered and clapped. I forced a smile and clapped along weakly. Fiona cut a small piece of the cake and smeared it on Bruno's face. He just smiled and told her to stop messing around. Oh no, I've ruined Bruno's perfect face. To make it up to you, I'll give you a big gift. Chapter 5. Fiona pulled out a large box as if by magic, opening it in front of Bruno. The moment I saw the gift, my pupils constricted. Instinctively, I pushed the box at my feet further under the table. Inside the box lay a brand new laptop from a well-known brand, just like the one I had prepared for Bruno. Bruno, your old laptop is slow and outdated. Here, I got you a new one. I didn't buy anything too expensive. In case you wouldn't accept it, I just picked one at random. You won't mind, will you? The laptop was priced at $12,999. To buy it, I had worked as an after-school tutor for 6 months. Every weekend, I had to take a 2-hour round-trip bus ride to the other side of the city to teach students, all because that tutoring center paid 10 yuan more per hour than those around the school. The item that represented my countless hours of hard work, something I treated like a treasure, was merely something Fiona had picked at random. My hand holding the chopsticks trembled slightly. Fiona suddenly looked at me, smiling softly. Oh, we haven't seen what gift our sister-in-law got for Bruno yet. Saying that, she moved behind me. Before I could react, she reached out and took the box directly. I immediately tried to snatch it back. The gift box, halfway open in Fiona's hand, fell to the ground. The laptop I had held so carefully, never letting it leave my embrace, crashed onto the floor, making a dull thud. Oops, sorry. Fiona apologized, but I couldn't hear any sincerity in her voice. I knelt down to check the laptop. The casing was slightly bent. The screen had several large cracks, and pressing the power button did nothing. Bruno knelt beside me, trying to help me up. Lily, for once, I heard a hint of guilt in his voice. I raised my hand to push him away, numbly putting the laptop back in the box. Then, I turned and left the private room. As soon as I stepped out, I started running. It seemed only then that Bruno realized what had happened. Lily! Chapter 6. I couldn't match his strength, and he caught me at the entrance of the restaurant. He was panting, his cool fingers gripping my shoulder. I looked up and met his gaze, clearly seeing the shock in Bruno's eyes. His trembling hand touched my cheek, wiping away the wetness. Only then did I realize I was crying. So, this is what it feels like to be touched by Bruno. A bitter taste spread at the corner of my mouth, tears running down to my neck, leaving it damp. Bruno couldn't wipe away all my tears, so he simply pulled me into his arms. Lily, don't cry. Please don't cry. He repeated my name over and over, his voice panicked. As I wept, I finally became an exception for him, but I was no longer the only exception. Perhaps, in places I couldn't see, he had already crossed his boundaries for Fiona again and again. Bruno, after gathering my thoughts for a long time, I finally spoke, and only then did I realize how firm my voice could be. Let's break up. Bruno paused for a moment, then looked up, his eyes filled with confusion. Is it really necessary, Lily? Emotions flickered in his eyes, and finally, he seemed to think of something. He sighed, as if a bit helpless. Lily, do you want me to coax you? Since when did you become so childish? Between Fiona and me, You don't understand, so don't make a fuss. Bruno's tone was flat, as if I were an easy math problem, one that he could solve effortlessly, arriving at the perfect answer. Clearly, he thought that someone like me couldn't comprehend the intricacies between him and Fiona, and that there was no need to explain it to an ordinary person like me. He believed I shouldn't be childish and should just pretend like nothing happened, as I had done every time before. Like a pet under his control, I suddenly felt like laughing, but tears slipped into the corner of my mouth. I raised my hand, intending to slap him, but in an instant, all my strength left me. My nails grazed his face, leaving a faint scratch. Bruno, what genius! You're just an arrogant fool. Bruno was stunned for a moment, then raised his hand to touch his face. Suddenly, he spoke. Does this make you feel better? Before I could reply, Fiona suddenly ran over. The moment she saw the scratch on Bruno's cheek, her expression changed, as if she wanted to tear me apart. She stood protectively in front of Bruno, her voice breaking. If you have something against me, come at me directly. Why are you bullying Bruno? Not satisfied with just yelling, Fiona took 2 steps forward, raising her hand to slap me. I raised my hand to block her, and the moment our fingertips met, I saw a hint of triumph in her eyes. Ah! Fiona fell to the ground, clutching her ankle, but I hadn't even used any force. Lily! I didn't. Bruno and I spoke at the same time, our voices clashing in the air. One was innocent, the other full of anger. You should know, what happens between us has nothing to do with a third person. You've really disappointed me. The desire to defend myself disappeared entirely at that moment. I watched as Bruno picked up the crying Fiona in his arms. Before he turned to leave, he gave me one last look. His gaze was cold, like he was looking at a stranger. He rarely showed emotion, but now, because of her, he had broken that rule once again. They were entangled, like 2 vines. I suddenly remembered something that happened after the college entrance exams. That time when Bruno and I went on a trip together. I had a fever of 40 degrees. I begged him to take me to the hospital, and after hesitating for a long time, he still called an ambulance. Lily, you can understand me, right? When the ambulance arrived, it got stuck in traffic, and by the time we reached the hospital, I almost developed pneumonia. My best friend Anna found out about this and angrily cursed Bruno, saying he wasn't worth anything. She said he never really loved me. Back then, I still defended him, saying it was just his nature, not that he didn't love me. Now, it's as if that bullet from back then hit me square between the eyes. How could he forget about the ambulance in the same situation now? I had to admit it. It wasn't that he couldn't love. He just couldn't be bothered to love me. Chapter 7. I booked the earliest ticket back to school for the next day, in City B, where I didn't know anyone and had no money. I could only spend the night in a corner of the train station. After returning to school, I fell seriously ill. When I woke up in the hospital room, Anna's eyes were red and swollen, like 2 large walnuts. Lily, I told you a long time ago, Bruno is unreliable. Anna had never liked Bruno. She called me a love-struck fool, and Bruno a chauvinist. If it had been before, I would have immediately argued back. But now, after everything that had happened, I had long since lost the grounds to argue. I could only nod. Anna, I wish I had listened to you earlier. As we spoke, my phone rang. It was the special ringtone I had set for Bruno. Last year, on my birthday, Bruno said he would grant me any wish. I shamelessly begged him to sing 2 Tigers for me, and I set it as my ringtone. He looked at me with a half-helpless, half-indulgent smile. Back then, I really thought happiness had landed in my hands. I thought Bruno would gradually change for me. I believed we would eventually become the most ordinary and happiest couple in the world. A bitter smile spread across my lips, and I felt like crying again. I hung up the call and blocked Bruno. Opening WeChat, I noticed Bruno's avatar had a few red dots for once. He asked where I was. Sent a photo of Fiona with her foot in a cast. Because of your recklessness, someone else got hurt. What happened between us? You shouldn't have dragged her into it. After countless green messages in the chat, it was rare to see a white one, but it was for someone else. blaming me. I couldn't hold back. Tears fell one by one onto the phone screen. Bruno and I met in middle school and accompanied each other through our youth. To me, he wasn't just a lover. He was also someone I admired and chased after. The awkward comfort he gave me when I failed an exam. The special tutoring he provided before college entrance exams. The genius who never did his homework hand-copied an entire book of unique study notes just for me. An ordinary, clumsy girl. I held the notebook, my heart pounding like a drum, pretending to ask casually, "Bruno, you put so much effort into this. Do you like me or something?" Hiding my true feelings behind a joke. My voice trembled. Time ticked by second. I had no idea how long it had passed. Suddenly, he spoke, his voice calm as usual, as if discussing the weather. I like you." I looked up at him in shock. The evening glow outside the window bathed half of his face in a crimson light. At that moment, I thought he had feelings for me. And just like that, I became the girlfriend of a genius. The doubts around us surged like waves. But they couldn't shake me. I followed behind him, running after him for a long distance. In half a year, I went from an average second-tier university to a 211 university. And now, I had a chance to secure a guaranteed spot for graduate school at Bruno's University. I gritted my teeth, all for the sake of getting a little closer to him. I was so close. Just a little bit more and I could have reached his side. But after working hard for so many years, no one told me that people can change. People do change. The boy who once confessed his love to me under a sky ablaze with color now liked someone else. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, typing out long paragraphs, explanations, accusations, angry curses. In the end, I deleted it all, word by word. There's no need, I thought. Bruno, out of the goodness of my heart, let me explain something to you. A genius who doesn't understand the mundane world. What you're doing is called cheating. After sending that message, I opened his profile. Once you block this contact, you will no longer receive messages from them. My finger hovered over the confirm button for a long time. Finally, I pressed it. I collapsed into Anna's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Chapter 8. Bruno was no longer a part of my life. A breakup is like a long, drawn-out torture, like being cut with a blunt knife. Whenever I thought of him, my heart would suddenly tighten, hurting so much. But as time went on, the pain became numb. From beginning to end, I hadn't done anything wrong. Someone who is blameless shouldn't be trapped by someone who is wrong. I threw myself into my studies, forcing myself not to think about Bruno. Just when I thought I was finally getting over the breakup, we got entangled again in an unexpected way. I didn't expect to go viral. It started with someone shipping Bruno and Fiona as a couple on his school's forum. The post gained a lot of attention. Most of the comments were things like "so sweet" and "handsome guy and beautiful girl. Perfect match." But then, there was a comment that stood out. Am I the only one who remembers this? Didn't Bruno have a girlfriend for years? A single comment set off a huge wave. This comment instantly sparked heated discussions. Huh? No way. Does that mean Fiona is the other woman? Don't spread rumors without proof, okay? Bruno has always been a loner. Where's the evidence of him having a girlfriend? I'm in the same department as Bruno. His personality is a bit odd, but I've only ever seen him be that close with Fiona. Someone even shared countless photos of Bruno and Fiona together to support their claim. Standing together on the podium, attending campus events together. They were always shoulder to shoulder, always smiling brightly. The comment about me was quickly deleted, but the buzz didn't die down. It even spread to other platforms. With Bruno and Fiona being standout figures at a prestigious school, it attracted a lot of attention. There were even some high school classmates who posted photos of Bruno and me, confirming our relationship. And what Fiona was in this scenario became self-evident. A few hours after things escalated, Fiona posted a long statement to clear her name, claiming she wasn't the other woman. Not only that, she attached 2 photos, one of herself with her foot in a cast, and another of Bruno with an injury on his cheek. And she wrote this: "For a long time, Bruno has been unilaterally harassed by this lady, and he has expressed his discomfort many times. However, This lady not only refused to stop but also followed Bruno to City B on his birthday. After being rejected, she became enraged, hit Bruno, and pushed me when I tried to help, which resulted in a fracture in my left ankle. Out of respect for their long acquaintance, Bruno chose not to press charges, but we do not wish for kindness to be repaid with malicious slander. MS. Lily, I hope you conduct yourself well. Chapter 9. On the Internet. People rarely have the patience to discern the truth. This distorted statement immediately pushed the situation to its peak. Fiona publicly disclosed my name, and since someone had previously posted my photo in the comments section, the internet users easily dug up all my personal information. They stormed into the school's forum, cursing me as a psychopath, saying I was an ugly troublemaker, a cockroach who couldn't stand to see others happy. The dean's office summoned me and subtly reminded me. They said my actions had brought too much negative attention to the school. Lily, the school has no intention of interfering in your private life, but if this continues, your opportunity for the overseas exchange program might. The school always had an exchange program abroad. Several teachers who knew me well had suggested I give it a try, but back then, I only wanted to secure a spot in Bruno's university for grad school, and I was overwhelmed with grades and credits. I also didn't want a long-distance relationship with Bruno, so I turned down the teacher's suggestions. The day I returned with the broken laptop in my arms, I suddenly understood. Within the last 2 hours before the system closed, I submitted the exchange application with my grades. It should have been a sure thing, but then all this happened. The screen of the academic office teacher's phone was on Fiona's profile page. She had updated it again. In the photo, she had an 4 in her hand, and there, caught inadvertently, was a slender hand next to her, preparing her medication. Caption, with you here. Even the bitterest medicine is bearable. The comment section was filled with well wishes, everyone wishing her and the man in the photo a long and happy relationship. There were even people taking subtle digs at me. Now this is real girlfriend treatment. Someone must be jumping with envy seeing this. Ha, when I was sick, Bruno only told me to drink more hot water. I looked away from the screen and took out my phone, opened my drafts, found the evidence I had organized after staying up for 3 nights. In it were fragments of our happiness. Proof that Bruno and I had once been happy. Originally, I planned to show it to the world at our wedding, but now, it has become my lifeline. I gently pressed the send button. Professor, you don't have to worry anymore. Chapter 10. Shortly after sending the evidence, I received a call from a high school classmate I hadn't heard from in a long time. I answered, and it was Bruno's voice. He sounded tired. Are you done, Lily? Delete the post. I laughed in anger. Done? Because Fiona lied. I was harassed online for days, even getting dirty looks when I went to the cafeteria. Because Fiona lied. I was almost disciplined by the school and lost my chance to go abroad. And you're here blaming me. Bruno, you and Fiona are a perfect match. You both have no shame. There was a moment of silence on the other end. You're going abroad? How come I didn't know? I sneered. Bruno, don't forget, we already broke up. Bruno sighed deeply. Lily, we haven't broken up. There are too many things you don't understand, and I'll explain them in time. Just delete the post first. Fiona's not doing well, even though I had already completely lost hope in Bruno. At that moment, I couldn't help but feel my heart grow cold. Even now, he was still trying to brush me off. All the pain I had suffered meant nothing to him. The rumors about me fermented online for 3 days, and he said nothing. But because Fiona wasn't doing well, he took the initiative to reach out and make peace. So he does know how to use the internet. I couldn't help it, I cursed. Then hung up the phone. After sitting in the chair for a while, I directly called the police. Wasn't Fiona not doing well? Well, let me pour some oil on the fire and let her see what it's like to face a lawsuit. Chapter 11. Fiona's actions fell under defamation. Under pressure from the internet and the police, Fiona deleted the false statements. However, the internet has a memory. Screenshots of her posts and the photos showing off their affection were all over the web. The attention it drew far surpassed what I had faced. Fiona's school also issued a statement, saying they would handle the matter seriously. just as I thought everything was finally getting better and I was focusing on preparing to go abroad. I received terrible news. My spot in the exchange program had been revoked. I asked for the reason repeatedly, but all I got was the teacher's dismissive response. This is the school's decision. We didn't want this to happen either. It's late now. You should go. We're about to close. The door to the academic office slammed shut. It was already late autumn, with a fine drizzle falling, adding a touch of chill. I looked up, and under the streetlight, in the curtain of rain, stood a familiar figure. Bruno. Just my luck. I planned to turn and leave as if I hadn't seen him, but he grabbed my wrist tightly. The cold touch sent shivers through me, giving me goosebumps. Lily. I shook off his hand. Get lost. He looked behind me and suddenly said, if you withdraw the lawsuit now, there might still be a chance. I froze. Half a month ago, I filed a private lawsuit. I took Fiona to court. The other side proposed a private settlement, but I refused. In a flash, I seemed to understand. Is Fiona behind this? Bruno just said, I've already advised you. Withdraw the lawsuit, and I'll help speak to the teachers on your behalf. I laughed mockingly. You want to plead for me? Aren't you afraid Fiona will be upset? Destroying a temple is better than breaking a marriage. I wouldn't want to see you two lovebirds turn against each other. Bruno shook his head. His expression conflicted. It's not. I won't be with Fiona. Just listen. All right? Listen? I couldn't stop trembling. I raised my hand, and the slap that should have fallen long ago landed hard on Bruno's face. Bruno, loving you was the biggest regret of my life. His head turned to the side, and he didn't look back for a long time. Bruno would never understand that what I loved wasn't his genius. The moment I truly fell for him might have been when he protected a bullied little girl in an alley or when he bought everything from an old lady selling her wares on a rainy night. That was the Bruno I knew. Although he seemed a bit aloof, he was actually full of justice. But as I've said before, people change. The once righteous boy who refused to go along with the crowd had now become rotten. Withdraw the lawsuit? Never. Do what you want. I believe in the eternity of truth. Don't come looking for me anymore. Bruno, I'm not the only one with a cleanliness obsession. I find a man touched by others dirty too. Bruno tried to grab me again. He seemed to realize something, his voice sharp and urgent. Lily! I kicked out with my leg, my shoe making a dull thud as it hit him. I heard him grunt in pain, but he still wouldn't let go. Bruno, don't make me disgusted by you. The man behind me was silent. Finally, slowly, he let go of my hand, bit by bit, without looking back. I ran into the rain. Chapter 12. I would never tell Bruno that just the day before he came looking for me, I received a private message. The person claimed to be Bruno's senior from the same lab. He asked if I knew why Bruno cared so much about Fiona. Initially, I didn't plan to reply, but he sent several messages on his own. Look into who Fiona's father is. You'll be surprised. Who wouldn't want a good father-in-law and a bright future? If Fiona picked me, maybe I'd have published papers until I couldn't keep up. Have you ever experienced the feeling of having something you worked so hard for taken away by someone else? I've experienced it many times. We're both victims. At that time, I didn't want to believe it, because I thought that at least Bruno's academic ability was trustworthy. After all, he was a genius. But deep down, a vague suspicion began to grow. I looked into Bruno's supervisor. In the photo, the man wore gold-rimmed glasses and smiled with gentle elegance. That face had traces of Fiona in it. When I saw Bruno at the entrance, I inexplicably turned on my phone's recorder. Now, that recording quietly lay in my phone. On the screen, Bruno's senior had sent me a new message. He was sitting on the rooftop. Beneath him was a bottomless abyss. He won't let me graduate. I don't want to live anymore. My fingers moved slightly, and this time, I replied to him, if you die, it's all over. We are indeed victims. But who said victims have to sit and wait for their doom? I contacted Bruno's senior, Joel. Luckily, he had kept a lot of evidence. My account had gained a lot of attention due to the battle of the century with Fiona. So for the sake of exposure, we organized the evidence. Together with the recording, we posted everything on my account. top university PhD, students exploited by supervisors, academic tyranny oppressing the innocent. Any one of these topics could instantly set the internet on fire. Bruno's school quickly responded, suspending all of Fiona's father's work. That day, Bruno frantically tried to contact me, screaming on the other end of the phone. "Lily, how dare you? How dare you?" I smiled softly. Chapter 13. On the day of the trial, the weather was perfect. With a cloudless sky, the court found Fiona guilty of defamation and sentenced her to 1 year in prison, with a 2-year probation. She broke down crying in court. I wonder if, for even a moment, she regretted causing such chaos for the sake of one man. On the same day, the university also announced the decision regarding Fiona's father. He was dismissed from all positions and had his teaching credentials revoked. All the students in his lab were transferred to other supervisors, except for Bruno. Upon investigation, out of the 7 papers he had published, he had only personally participated in 3 of them. Clinging to Fiona's connections had clearly brought him a lot of benefits. When the truth came out, the whole school was in an uproar. The campus prince had turned into a despised thief. The once prodigious young genius had finally fallen into the mud. After Bruno dropped out, no one saw him again. Some said he went behind the scenes at a major company. Others said he returned to his small hometown to deliver takeout. No one could tell what was true. Not long after, my spot in the exchange program was reinstated. As I passed through security, I glanced back. Among the crowd, a familiar figure seemed to flash by. I didn't look back again or wonder who it might have been. This time, I was heading toward a future where I fought for myself. Chapter 14. No way. Lily, you're really getting married? To that wimpy senior from back then? Joel, sitting in the driver's seat, twitched his lips. I laughed and explained to Anna on the other end of the phone. What wimpy senior? He has a name. Jiangzhou texts Joel. It's about time we had an ending after all these years. I'm not kidding. You better come be my bridesmaid. After I went abroad, unfamiliar with everything, Joel helped me a lot. Over time, we became close. A year later, Joel successfully graduated with his PhD. And that night, this 6-foot-tall man cried like a child. He said I was his savior, the goddess who gave him a second chance at life. Of course, if the goddess was willing to date him, he would be even more grateful. I accepted his confession, not just because of his touching words, but also because he is an honest, kind, and down-to-earth person. After we started dating, our relationship was always stable. When the exchange period ended, I stayed in M country to continue my graduate studies. Joel decided to start his own business and, along with a few of his peers, founded Jiangzhou Tech. 2 more years passed, and when I finished my student life and decided to return home to advance my career, Joel's company had also started to grow. This time, we were coming back to prepare for our wedding. On the other end of the phone, Anna was still marveling at the unpredictability of life. She was silent for a moment, then said, "Did you know that Bruno is getting married too?" I responded with a soft "oh." Internally, I didn't feel much, but Joel seemed a bit anxious. He grabbed the phone and quickly said goodbye to Anna before hanging up. "Darling, we still have to visit several stores to try on wedding dresses. We need to hurry, or we won't make it." I didn't mention the obvious change of subject, just smiled softly. "Okay, I'll do as you say." Chapter 15. Vivida is a world-class wedding dress brand, and 6 months ago, I saw a creation in a magazine that was said to be the masterpiece of the chief designer, into which he had poured his life's work. It was love at first sight. This time, we had come specifically to try it on. Joel and I had made an appointment in advance, but when we arrived at the bridal shop's entrance, we were stopped. The shop assistant's face was full of concern. "Could you please wait for a moment? There's a situation inside." Even though her words were subtle, I could still make out parts of the argument coming from inside the shop. "What's the big deal about a stupid wedding dress? You won't let me try it on? You snobs!" The woman's voice was shrill, while the shop assistant tried to explain in a gentle voice. "Madam, this dress is already reserved by another customer." "Screw you, bitch! You look down on me? Madam, if you continue to cause trouble, We'll have to call security. That voice sounded vaguely familiar to me. The next second, security guards were escorting the cursing woman out, and I finally saw her face clearly. Fiona. When she saw me, her angry curses stopped, and she froze. I hadn't seen her in a long time. She had lost a lot of weight and her skin had darkened. A far cry from the vibrant, arrogant girl I remembered. If she was here, then the other person inside must be. A tall figure walked out from the store. Who else could it be but Bruno? He had gained some weight. His clothes didn't fit well, and his eyes were full of exhaustion. No longer the spirited young man he used to be. When our eyes met, he instinctively took a step back. The shop assistant walked over with a smile, apologizing repeatedly. I'm sorry for the wait. The dress you reserved is inside. This way, please. I nodded, not sparing Bruno and Fiona another glance, and pulled Joel along with me. It truly lived up to being Vivida's signature piece. The moment I stood in front of the mirror, my breath nearly stopped. I rarely use words like radiant to describe a dress, but it indeed possessed a breathtaking beauty. Clang! The cup in Joel's hand fell to the floor, his mouth slightly open. I smiled and patted his hand. Stunned? Yeah, stunned. Joel's eyes were actually a bit red. This is the one. How did I ever get so lucky to marry someone like you? Oh, he's exaggerating again. Who says science guys aren't romantic? I hadn't even had time to say anything before we were interrupted by a shout from outside. Bruno, do you want to die? Do you still like her? Look at yourself now. Who else would want you but me? Do you think she still wants anything to do with you? You have to stay with me, even if you die. We die together. This is what you owe my family. Fiona was hysterical, crying and pounding on Bruno, but Bruno remained unmoved, his eyes fixed straight in the direction of Joel and me. Joel clicked his tongue and stepped in front of me. I turned to the shop assistant beside me. In this kind of situation, aren't you going to do something? The shop assistant seemed to snap out of it and quickly called for security. The security guards reached out to grab Fiona, but she lay on the floor, rolling around and making a scene. Before long, a crowd had gathered to watch. With an audience, Fiona became even more outrageous, crying and complaining to Bruno. Joel and I crossed our arms, quietly watching the drama unfold. Bruno finally couldn't take it anymore. Can you stop this already? He kicked away Fiona's hand as she tried to grab his pant leg, pushing through the crowd and walking out. Fiona froze, staring at her hand. With the drama over, the crowd dispersed, leaving Fiona sitting alone on the store's doorstep. At that moment, I wondered if she regretted choosing Bruno. I didn't know. All I knew was that people have to take responsibility for their choices. I squeezed Joel's hand. His hands were warm and strong, and we supported each other through the long years. There was no one looking up to the other, no one chasing the other. Perhaps the kind of love that suited me was always meant to be like this. All right, this is the one. Let's go home. You can make me braised ribs. Joel held my hand, his voice gentle. All right.